Animator, I am Zen, and I'm here to make your life a little bit easier in this crazy industry. Let's talk about how to hold sword in Maya. In my previous video, I have talked about IK and FK choice in your shot, and today I want to take one specific example and go through it and explain my thought process on how do I choose between IK and FK, how do I make sure that rigs are correct for such task, because sometimes when we take up the shot, the main problem is actually not our skill but wrong rig. So let's take one specific example, go through it, and figure out the brain process you have to have in order to get your shot done. Number one thing you need to do before you start any of your shot ever is to know what you're gonna do, is to plan what you're gonna do with your shot. So let's take a look at the thumbnails I have drawn here. This is the idea for my shot. I'm gonna animate the sword as promised. I use the thumbnail to plan my shot, but you can always use reference by shooting the reference. You need to plan the shot. There's no way around it, and please don't try to just jump in Maya and block out your shot. I have burned myself on that many times where I thought, oh, I'm just in a rush, I'll just do it quickly without thinking or planning, and it comes and bites you in the ass later. Do some sort of planning, visual planning. In the first image, we have a character just holding the sword. So I'm understanding that I will need a controller around the handle where the arms are. So I mark it in a purple color so I know my controller gotta be there. Then I'm raising the arms, and it's pretty much the same mechanic, so I'm not switching the controller anywhere else. The controller should still be there. Movement is driven by the arms. As it smashes down, we're gonna have something different. So when the tip touches the ground, the tip can become a pivot point for the sword. Of course, if it's just a quick hit and rise and the sword is light, you might not need it. But what if it's a heavy sword? The sword, when it's heavy, it can get dragged or maybe even get stuck in the ground. So you will actually need a controller at the tip of your sword. And this is something you have to think through ahead, because that will be very hard to fix later if you did not plan for it. So now we know we need at least two controllers. One have to be where the arms are and one have to be at the tip. So on the next image, nothing really changes. We still need the controllers at the hand and at the tip. We're just gonna release one of our arms. And this also tells us that we might need to switch it maybe to FK or keep it in IK, but the arm has to be detachable. So by visualizing your shot, you kind of already know what you need from the rig and what you need from the prop you're gonna use. And this way, when you're gonna be looking for your rig or prop, you're not just looking how pretty the thing is, but also its functionality, which is very important. A lot of people will forget about this. Now, let's take a look at the rigs I have chosen for this task. I got Jinx and I got the sword. I will link down below both of the rigs to Create Artist, and also if you want to use this rigs. Jinx seems to be solid. She just has normal IK controllers, and that's all we need. We don't need any follow controllers, though she has one option of follow only, which means it will probably follow the body. Yeah, so not much variety, but for this particular shot, because she's holding the sword will be the one controlling arms. I don't care. We can not have too many options for the IK arms. It will still work. Now, take a look at the sword. I have noticed that the sword has sheath cover. So you can see it's here, and if you use the blue controller, yeah, so you can move out the sword and it still has the separate cover. We don't want the cover for our shot, so what I would usually do is that I find the geometry of the sheath and create a new layer and just hide it. I don't need it. Now when we hide it, we notice something interesting. So this is the main controller of the sword, which means this will move everything. Now, this could have been our tip controller, all right? If only it was not at the end of the sheet, but not of the sword. You can see if we would be animating together with the cover of the sword, we wouldn't have a problem. But the moment we are hiding it, the tip is not there. And this controller is not exactly what we're looking for. What we want to be able to rotate the sword from the bottom like this, but the point currently is the wrong position. How do we fix it? Create a new controller? Could be that could be option. Maybe you are good at rigging and you can rig it the way you want it. However, I'm an animator and I have very basic, boring knowledge of rigging, so I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna rearrange the controllers in the way it is convenient for me. So what I would suggest you to do is to do this fun trick where you take the bottom controller and we are gonna move it down first to create the point of the main controller at the top. See what I did? I just used the bottom controller. Instead of it being at the 0, 0 position, I moved it here. So I have created myself a controller for the arms, where the arms will be holding the sword around this position. So arms will be placed at the handle, and I'll have the main controller to animate. And then when the sword will land, I will be able to animate from here. We still have not solved the problem of it not pivoting here, but it is exactly the same solution as we had before. You can use the controller, like for example this red one, it moves all of them. Move it down a little bit to where the tip of the sword is. There you go. And then we move it a bit back. So by using the controllers we already have available in the rig, by just rearranging them a little bit, you will be actually able to create the controllers at the correct points of rotation you need. So now we have the main controller for the arms to animate, and we have this small controller, smaller, the child controller, to have rotation as well. So even if our hands are constrained somewhere here, we will be able to animate them. So this is a cool and clever way of thinking of your rigs, of how you can manipulate them into creating the correct pivots for your rotation. And now we're gonna go to the shot. I have animated that shot already because this is not how you animate the shot, this is more about how you constrain the shot. So we'll jump straight to the file where I already have an animation, and I will explain you the constraint process behind it. Let's take a look at what I've got here. I have already created the animation for Jinx smashing down with a sword. It's not super detailed, but it is enough to explain the constraint process and the thought process behind the whole thing. So, as you can see, I have done the arrangement as I have explained previously by moving the yellow controller to the tip and the big main controller around where the arms are holding. So I mostly animated this controller, and I only have a little bit of animation on this controller as it lands to create a little bit of the jitter, or to be able to like move from that point, because I wanted to have that feeling like it kind of got stuck to where she hit it. And then also as she raises her arm to stop the magic sphere flying her way, she can kind of pivot around this heavy part and stretch out the arm. This should be quite clear and quite straightforward after I explained the previous part. However, the very common problem that people face when they do this animation, let's go to the first frame, is that your wrists are gonna be all over the place as you raise the arms, as you swish the arms. You always get that weird twisted arms, kind of like not holding the sword properly, because most of the time people constrain the arms directly to the sword, and this is something we should not do. And let's see why. So we take the sword, we take the arm, and let's just go constraint, parent it, make sure we have the maintain offset on, apply, and let's do the same for the other arm, apply. Now, as she's going to be raising the sword up, right, like she's going for this animation, look what happens to her wrists, right? Because you're rotating the sword, you're not like thinking about the rotation of the wrists as much, because usually when you hold something with your two hands, you're kind of able to move around your wrists. Like there is more like flexibility in real life if you hold something. And especially in animation, sometimes you want to like cheat to get like slightly better angle for the sword. But if you constrain your arms straight to the sword, this disaster will happen. And boy, that's not what you want for sure. So how do we solve this? It's very easy, and I suggest you to use this method for anything that's held by two hands, and I have explained that in my previous video on how I was holding the box or the steering wheel, and we're gonna do the same thing exactly here, because I feel like it's really important to learn this way of constraining, and it had been my lifesaver for many years. Let's go figure out how to make our arms rotatable around the sword. Number one thing, of course, let's delete the constraints we have created, because we all know that if it's green, it's not animatable. So delete them. Okay, but how do we constrain it in the way we can rotate them? Here comes our best friends, locators. I'm creating the locator. It's again on my shelf, but if you're looking for it and you don't have it on your shelf, it's under Create Locator. You click here, it will appear. So I have one locator, and I want that locator to be leveled to my arm. You can always, of course, just drag it manually and put it where it should be. Now, if you have an aimbot, you can just use the align button, which makes it super duper easy. For example, here, so I could just put it where my rotation point is after I align it, just small adjustments after for the specific arm. However, if you don't have an aimbot, you can use another interesting technique that can help you to align something quickly. So select first the controller, then select the locator. You can go under the constraint, under the parent, but this time untick the maintain offset. By unticking it and applying it, your locator will get constrained to the sword. But what's more important than it got constrained, it got aligned to the sword. So all you have to do is just delete the constraint. By deleting the constraint of the locator, you can move it and align it to where you want it to be. So now we have two locators aligned to not just the arm, but the rotation point of the arm. Where the sword is, you want to align it to this hole, to where like the arm will rotate from. Now we're gonna shift select them both. Just go to outliner, hold shift and select them both. Control G, create the group. So by creating the group, we can move them together now. See, they're moving together. I'd also highly suggest you to make the center the pivot point of the group, because the group pivot point usually at the bottom. This won't affect that much, depending on how you're gonna animate, if you're gonna animate the group later or not. Please go to the modify and center pivot. So now your group pivot will be in the middle of the two locators. There you go. Now, as we got this basic setup, what's our next step? Is that we need to make sure our group of hands will follow the sword, because we didn't create it for nothing, right? So we're gonna take our handle, constrain the group of the locators to the handle. Constrain, parent, do take back the maintain offset, apply. What it does now is that if I move the sword, our locators that are inside are moving together. What we want now is to locators to become parents to our arms. And yes, you might say, but the arms will still have a constraint. True, let's click on it and see. Arms will look exactly like the first time we have constrained them directly to the sword handle. However, this time they have a middleman. So you still will not be able to rotate from here. But we don't really want to rotate from here, to be honest, because when the arm is on a sword, you want it to pivot around where it holds, right? You can key the locator and now animate your arm directly from the pivot where it holds the sword. You can adjust it, you can do whatever you want to it. So as she's raising her arms up, right? I put a key here for locator. As she's raising her arm up, see how the wrist is all broken up? So what you can do, you can just rotate it to a nice point because it pivots around now perfectly to where you need it. So you can create the keys, you can adjust the arm exactly where you need. Everything is adjustable now, so you can have so much flexibility adjusting your arms to where they need to be. And as she smashes down again, the wrist looks kind of broken up, so we can find the key pose for this, rotate it to where it should be, constrain our second arm, top one, to our locator as well, adjust it as well. This is so much better and so much easier to animate the sword because you have a full flexibility of your wrists, and even if you rotate the sword to get a better angle, you don't have to worry about your wrists going haywire. So here I have animated before that she is kind of letting go of the sword. So all you have to do here is just put the key here, then you go and you unparent it. It's okay if it moved a bit. If you don't want it to move, you can parent it back, press S, then unparent, and then it will stay and won't fly away. So you will have like this animation. So you can customly, when it's on 0, move it slowly away from the sword, like she's just opening the arm to kind of like anticipate for that movement. And there you go. Pow. Locators are great tools. Do use them. Do check out my previous videos where I explain a little bit more on the IK and FK differences and how I constrain there. And if you have any questions, you're curious to ask maybe some other workflows, or you have wanted to do certain shots but you don't know how to approach that kind of shot, please leave the comment down below. I would love to reply your messages and help you to animate better. If you like my content, please do subscribe. Please give me likes so I know to continue this. That's the way you can encourage me to do more of this, technical tips of animation in Maya. And of course, as always, stay healthy, animator.